Okay, so let's unpack this. We live in a world that's just always on, you know?
Totally. Notifications constantly buzzing, feeds endlessly scrolling.
Yeah, and our brains feel like they're juggling like a dozen digital things at once. So the idea of a real digital detox, it sounds great, right? But actually doing it,
That's the tricky part.
especially stepping away from connectivity if maybe your idea of camping involves, well, actual walls and maybe hot water.
Right. It can feel pretty daunting, that thought of being truly offline, even for a bit. It brings up real anxieties for people, safety, comfort.
Or just missing out. Roughing it isn't everyone's cup of tea for relaxation,
Definitely not.
which is exactly why we dove into this pile of sources for you. We've got articles on specific spots, reviews from people who've actually stayed there.
And even a really interesting online discussion thread about camping without internet.
Right. So our mission here is to explore how glamping is, maybe surprisingly, becoming a really effective way to get that digital detox.
We want to figure out, why glamping? Why does it appeal to people trying to unplug? And what kinds of experiences are actually out there?
And the practical side, too. How do people actually manage being disconnected out in nature?
Exactly.
So when we talk about glamping, specifically for digital detox, what are we really looking at? Based on these sources, it's definitely not your basic tent setup.
No, it's more like elevated camping, glamour camping, right? The focus really shifts.
How so?
Well, it's less about minimalism and, grit and more about the actual experience and comfort. But you're still immersed in nature.
Ah, okay. That blend is the key thing then, isn't it?
I think so. It offers just enough comfort, like a proper bed, maybe a real bathroom, a little kitchenette sometimes.
Stuff that removes the usual barriers to getting outside for some people.
Exactly. It makes the idea of unplugging feel, well, achievable. You're not battling the elements and digital withdrawal at the same time.
And the variety of places. It's kind of amazing. We saw mentions of glamping and some really unique structures.
Like what?
Like actual covered wagons. There was this place, Whispering Pines, near Bryson Zion in Utah.
Get out. Covered wagon.
Yeah, and they're decked out. King bed, bunk beds, mini fridge, microwave, coffee, even heated blankets.
Okay, that's definitely glamour.
And you get your own private heated bathhouse nearby, too.
Wow. Okay. And then there are the classic upscale canvas tents, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. Places like Under Canvas near the Grand Canyon came up. They have different levels, safaris, stargazer, deluxe.
What kind of features did they mention?
Things like West Elm furniture, really plush mattresses, wood-burning stoves. Some even have private decks and bathrooms right there in the tent.
That sounds pretty nice.
The one review did mention the hot water can be a bit hit or miss sometimes, and you often have to build the fire yourself. Adds to the experience, maybe?
Maybe. Still, it's a big step up from an air mattress and those communal campground showers.
Definitely. And other unique places, too, like geodesic domes. Adrift at the Dome in Wales.
Oh, cool. Like with clear panels.
Apparently, yeah. Parts are transparent, perfect for stargazing, especially if it's a dark sky area.
Nice.
We also saw converted buses like Old Number One in the UK and cozy cabins, cottages, Fernwood Hills, Cottage in the Clouds. Lots of options.
So what's fascinating is how these places sort of act as a bridge.
A bridge? How do you mean?
They give you those essential comforts, a clean bathroom, a warm bed, coffee. It takes the edge off the whole roughing it thing.
Right, so you can focus your energy on the detox part, not just basic survival.
Exactly. Less focus on discomfort, more on actually, disconnecting.
And you can find these places pretty much everywhere, it seems. The sources weren't just talking about one or two remote corners.
No, it's widespread.
In the U.S., you've got Utah, Arizona, right near major national parks like Bryce, Zion, the Grand Canyon, often in these big open landscapes, plateaus, deserts.
And Canada, too. Alberta, Kananaskis country near Banff, mountain settings, forests.
The UK had a surprising number of mentions, actually, all across England and Wales.
Really? Whereabouts?
Let's see. Lincolnshire Wolds, Devon, the Lake District, Northumberland near Hadrian's Wall,
Wow.
and Wales, too, Pembrokeshire Coast, the Llanthony Valley, and Bannau-Brycheiniog National Park. Settings like rewilding projects, hills, coasts, remote valleys.
And for something really out there, one source mentioned a pop-up camp in the Brazilian Amazon.
Whoa.
Yeah, run by Amazon Emotions.
Yeah.
Talk about remote and immersive. That felt like the far end of the glamping spectrum.
It seems like a common thread, though, is that they're often near these really stunning natural areas.
Makes sense. Gives you plenty to do outdoors, right?
Yes.
Instead of scrolling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But okay, beyond just having things to do, what are the actual benefits people talked about from, stepping away from tech in these kinds of places?
The sources painted a pretty compelling picture, actually. The mental and emotional shifts seemed pretty profound.
Like what? Less stress.
Definitely. People mentioned significant drops in stress and anxiety, a noticeable improvement in just general mood, overall well-being. Plus, things like enhanced mindfulness, better focus, even a boost in creativity.
I can see that, just breaking free from the constant pings, the blue light, that doom scrolling cycle someone mentioned in the forum thread.
Right, that sense of relief from always needing to be on or comparing yourself online.
And just being in nature, the sounds, rustling leaves, birds, a crackling fire.
It really does calm the nervous system. Reviewers often mention sleeping way better, too, without screens right before bed.
And what about relationships? Did that come up?
Oh, big time. Several sources really highlighted how these trips foster quality time.
Because you're kind of forced to talk.
Pretty much. Without screens as the easy distraction, you end up having real conversations. Shared activities, too. Building that fire, cooking together, figuring out a trail.
Becomes bonding time, strengthening connections.
Yeah, it shifts interactions from just being, next to each other on your phones to actually sharing an experience directly.
Makes sense.
And then, of course, the simple physical benefits. Being outside, fresh air, moving your body more.
One thing that kind of surprised me was this mention of a sense of accomplishment.
Accomplishment. From what?
From doing physical things, like actually getting that wood stove lit at the under canvas place or navigating with a real map. It provides a different kind of satisfaction.
Oh, that's a great point. It's a tangible productivity, right?
Oh, yeah.
Different from just checking off digital tasks.
Yeah, a shift from digital output to like physical presence and capability, which sounds really revitalizing.
Totally.
Okay, so lots of benefits. But let's be real, the idea of being truly remote, no signal, that does freak some people out.
Absolutely. That Reddit thread we looked at, worries about emergencies were huge.
And it's a valid concern. What do you do if something goes wrong and you're miles from service?
Right. But the thread, and other sources too, didn't just focus on the worry. They offered actual practical strategies people use.
Like satellite phones.
Yeah, satellite communication devices were the big one. Garmin InReach, Zoleo, Spioti, sat phones themselves.
And the newer iPhone feature, the satellite SOS, that came up too.
Ways to send messages or alerts, even when you're way off grid.
But almost everyone seemed to stress something much simpler first.
Which was?
Just telling someone reliable exactly where you're going, your route, and when you expect to be back or check in.
The classic let someone know plan. Crucial. If you don't check in, they know to raise the alarm.
And basic preparedness, obviously. First aid kit, knowing some basic first aid.
Having actual physical maps and knowing how to use them. Don't just rely on your phone's GPS.
Someone in the thread made a smart point, too, that sometimes dialing 911 can work even with minimal signal.
Oh, right, because it tries to connect to any available tower, not just your specific carrier. Good tip.
And then the more traditional stuff came up, too. Signal fires, whistles, finding a ranger station or camp host.
Or even just other campers if you're in an area that's somewhat popular.
And for people maybe not ready to go full cold turkey, some places offer a bit of a middle ground.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe there's Wi-Fi, but only in the main lodge or something.
Or your cabin gets a weak cell signal, but there's no dedicated Wi-Fi for streaming or heavy use.
So you can take a partial step away. Without the full anxiety of being totally cut off.
Right. So, okay, if you're listening and thinking, yeah, I want to try this, how do you make it work? Make the digital detox part a success.
The sources had some really solid practical tips. Number one seems to be planning ahead.
Because you can't just Google everything on the fly.
Exactly. Figure out your directions, your meals, maybe some activities before you leave civilization, print stuff out, download offline maps.
And then the big one, turn the phone off. Or at least on airplane mode as soon as you get there.
Keep it charged for emergencies, sure, but remove that constant temptation to just check it.
Maybe use a separate camera for photos, if that's a trigger for you to start scrolling.
Good idea. And setting work boundaries before you even leave. Clear out of office message, manage those expectations.
And just embrace it. Embrace the change of pace.
Yeah. Start your morning without grabbing the phone. Have coffee outside. Just listen. Fill the evenings with non-digital stuff.
Talking, stargazing, reading an actual book.
Listening to music without scrolling feeds. practicing mindfulness, whatever works for you.
And finally, manage your expectations a bit, right? Especially in the really remote spots.
For sure, things might not be absolutely perfect like a hotel. The hot water might be iffy, like that review said. You might have to actually work to light that fire.
But maybe accepting those little things is part of the whole point.
I think it is. It's part of the experience.
So, really, the core insight here is that glamping offers this accessible way to disconnect.
Yeah, a comfortable path. It's
Mhm.
not about getting rid of all comfort, but using it smartly
Hmm.
to make the mental challenge of unplugging feel less daunting.
Manageable, maybe even enjoyable.
And those unique experiences, sleeping in a dome, waking up in a wagon, having a real conversation around a fire without phones glowing.
Those often become the highlights, don't they? Because you stepped outside the usual digital routine.
Exactly. They're memorable precisely because they're different.
So, what this all boils down to for you, listening, is that a digital detox doesn't have to mean suffering through the basics.
Nope. Glamping offers this really interesting, comfortable way to ease into that unplugged life.
Reconnecting with nature, with people you care about.
And importantly, maybe reconnecting with yourself a little bit too.
Which leaves us with a final thought to chew on.
When you do finally put the screens away, when the constant pings stop, what might you discover? About yourself or just of the quiet world around you that you've been missing?